I trusted him with my inheritance, but one night, he transferred everything to his ex-wife. When I confronted him, he smirked and said, "You're just a stepping stone." I handed him divorce papers and said, "So, is this?" He thought he won until a judge read out my final clause, and I never thought I'd post something like this, but what happened to me feels like it came out of a TV show, and it's still messing with my head. I'm 42 now, living in Austin, Texas. But this story starts back in Dallas, a few years ago. I lost my dad in 2021. Sudden stroke. He was 66. We were close. He raised me on his own, since my mom left when I was a kid. My dad wasn't rich in a flashy way, but he built up his own construction business from scratch and owned a few rental properties. He always told me, "I'm not leaving you problems, I'm leaving you choices." When he died, I inherited everything. The business, which I later sold, 2 homes, some land near Frisco, and around $1.7 million in investments, CDs, and a savings account. My whole life changed overnight. At that time, I had been married to Marcus for about 8 months. Marcus was charming. I met him at a friend's birthday party. He worked in finance, said he helped manage high-value portfolios. Always dressed sharp, talked with confidence, pulled chairs out for women, opened doors, called waiters boss. That kind of guy. At first, I liked that about him. He made me feel seen. I'd just gotten out of a messy relationship where I did all the giving, and Marcus felt like the opposite. I told him about the inheritance a few weeks after it was finalized. I didn't go into all the numbers, but I shared enough. I was overwhelmed and stressed, and he stepped in quick. Said he could help. That I shouldn't have to carry that burden alone. He started talking about tax shelters, asset diversification, market trends, stuff that went over my head. I didn't know then how good he was at pretending to care. He offered to hold the wheel until I figured out a long-term financial plan. I should have waited, gotten a pro involved, but I was grieving and Marcus was my husband. I thought he had my back. So yeah, I let him access one of the accounts. Just one. The main joint savings account I used for bills and larger expenses. And I had him sign a post-nup when the inheritance came in. He didn't argue. Said it was smart. Even joked, "You planning to run off with the pool guy?" He signed it without reading most of it. I had slipped it into a stack of other forms related to the business and taxes. It felt sneaky, but something in my gut said I needed it. The key line in that agreement said any money from my inheritance couldn't be touched or moved without my written approval. If he violated that, he'd lose claim to everything and be financially liable for an audit. He never asked about it again. Life moved on. We bought a new car, redid the kitchen, took a short trip to Denver. I paid for everything. Every time I brought up money, he'd brush it off. "We're building a future," he'd say. I didn't realize he was building his own, and I wasn't part of it. It happened on a random Friday, in early May. We were supposed to go to his coworker's birthday dinner, but Marcus said he had a headache and wanted to stay home. He seemed annoyed all day. I figured he just had a rough week. I went alone. Got home around midnight. He was sitting outside on the patio in the dark. Just a single lamp on. Music playing low. A glass of whiskey in his hand. I remember the ice was half melted, like he'd been out there for a while. I asked if he was okay. He looked at me and said, "Hope you enjoyed yourself." Then he stood up and walked inside. I stood there for a few seconds, confused. He'd never acted cold like that. Not like that. I didn't sleep well that night. The next morning, I went to pay my web developer for some work on my design studio's website. I logged into the joint account. Balance, $48.29. I blinked. Refreshed. Same. I opened the transaction history and just stared. At 10:17 p.m. the night before, Marcus had transferred $987,000 out of the account. To a name I hadn't seen in over a year, Sierra Fields. His ex-wife. The one he said cheated on him. The one he said ruined his credit and slashed his tires. The one he swore he hadn't talked to since their divorce was finalized in 2018. I stood up. I walked outside. He was still on the patio, now reading something on his phone. I held my phone out and said, "Marcus, what is this?" He glanced at the screen, didn't even flinch. Then he smirked. "You're just a stepping stone." I remember those exact words. I think I stopped breathing. "You used me?" He leaned back in the chair and said, "I needed a bridge. You were convenient. Don't take it personal." I wanted to throw something. Scream. But I didn't. I turned, walked back inside, and locked the bedroom door. I called a lawyer that same morning. By Monday, divorce papers were drafted. I didn't tell Marcus. I wanted him to feel secure. Wanted him to think he'd won. He even started acting normal again. Making breakfast, playing music around the house. I could see the guilt in his face sometimes, but then it would disappear. He thought I was weak, that I'd get over it. But I was just quiet. Watching. Planning. The papers were delivered on a Friday. 1 week later, he was shaving in the bathroom. I walked in, handed them to him. He looked at the envelope, then at me. Laughed. "You're serious?" I just said, "So is this." He opened the envelope. Read a few lines. Shook his head. "You're wasting your time. That money's long gone. Sierra's got it now." I didn't answer. Just walked away. Then things got real. My lawyer filed the paperwork, and Marcus tried to act confident. Told people I was having a meltdown and making things up. He even showed up to our first hearing wearing a bright blue suit and sunglasses like he was headed to brunch. But when my lawyer brought out the post-nup and started reading from it, his face changed. He claimed he was tricked, that I made him sign something without explaining it. But the judge wasn't buying it. He had a law degree. He had no excuse. Then we pushed for a full forensic audit. Marcus had to pay for it. And the audit uncovered everything. The small payments to Sierra. The Venmo transfers labeled consulting. Even an apartment lease in her name, paid with my money. And it got worse. They found emails, messages, a whole thread between Marcus and Sierra. They mocked me, called me Yoga Barbie, walking wallet, and naive as hell. Marcus even wrote, "Once I drain this cow, we're back on track." He said that about me. To the woman he said he hated. We haven't gotten to the judgment yet. But the judge already froze Sierra's accounts. The court seized all shared marital property for review. Marcus is under investigation for financial fraud. And I'm not done. He thought I was a bridge. He forgot what happens when the other side burns. After the audit results were filed with the court, things changed fast. Marcus went silent. No more smug looks in the courtroom. No more flashy suits. The man who once laughed at me now sat stiff in a gray sweater, avoiding eye contact with everyone. I should have felt good about that. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted to know why. Why go through all that? Why betray me just to go back to Sierra? The woman he used to call a parasite in heels? It didn't make sense. So, I did something I wasn't sure about. I contacted someone I never thought I would. Sierra. I had her email from the court records. I sent a short message. "You already got what you wanted. I just want to know why he did it. Not for drama. Just peace." She replied the same day. It was one line. "He told me you were dying. That you didn't want to leave your money to family." I read that sentence over and over again. Dying? He told her I had cancer. That I was too proud to admit it. That I didn't want to burden anyone, but I wanted someone he trusted to carry out my wishes when the time came. He even said I gave him permission to transfer the money. Told her I wanted her to use it to support underprivileged women. What a sick joke. Sierra sent screenshots of texts. Dozens. Some from over a year ago. Marcus had been laying the groundwork for this long before the big transfer. And it worked. She believed him. Until now. She ended the email with, "I didn't know. I'll cooperate with whatever you need. I don't want to go down with him." That turned everything upside down. Sierra agreed to testify. She gave our lawyers access to all her communications with Marcus. She even turned over her personal banking records to prove she hadn't spent most of the money. But here's the twist. Marcus had already started draining her too. While I was preparing for the divorce, Marcus was making investments under Sierra's name. Fake ones. He promised her a joint business plan and convinced her to give him full access to her personal accounts. Turns out, he was planning to take the money back from her and leave both of us behind. We found wire transfer requests made in her name to accounts in Belize and Panama, places known for hiding assets. The trail was messy, but real. Marcus wasn't just a cheater. He was a full-blown con man. I sat in my lawyer's office, holding my head, trying to understand how I got here. This wasn't just betrayal. This was identity theft, fraud, money laundering. A marriage built on lies wasn't the worst part. The worst part was knowing that he planned everything from day one. From that very first conversation at the party where we met. He never loved me. He studied me. And now he was looking at real consequences. But it still didn't feel like enough. The court froze more of his assets. Sierra's testimony helped push the fraud case forward. But Marcus hired a new lawyer, one of those loud ones from TV who turns everything into a drama. His team started spinning a new story. I was unstable. I lured Marcus into a marriage for tax purposes. I manipulated him with legal tricks. The post-nup wasn't fair. It was laughable, but it slowed the case down. More hearings, more delays, more excuses. He was buying time, maybe hoping I'd give up, maybe waiting to vanish with what little he had left. But I wasn't stopping. I hired a second attorney, one who specialized in asset recovery and fraud cases. They found something I'd missed. An apartment in Waco, rented under a fake name. Paid for using a prepaid debit card funded from one of the offshore wires. A private investigator staked it out. And guess who showed up? Marcus. He was already building a second life. Fake name, new phone, bleached hair, different car. Like he was preparing to disappear. When we reported the new findings to the court, the judge finally issued a bench warrant. Marcus was ordered to surrender his passport and appear in court the following week. He didn't show. A warrant was issued. Now, it wasn't just civil. It was criminal. I wasn't chasing revenge at first. I just wanted my life back. But now I wanted to see him brought down completely. And I wasn't the only one. Because Sierra wasn't the only other woman he lied to. The PI found 2 more women in different cities, one in Tulsa, another in Little Rock. Both told similar stories: charming guy, fast romance, money talk, big dreams then gone. I knew then I had to go all the way. This wasn't just about divorce. This was about shutting Marcus down for good. When the news broke that Marcus had a bench warrant, something unexpected happened. A woman showed up at my design studio one afternoon. She looked about my age, maybe a few years younger. Nervous. Holding a thick manila envelope. She said her name was Trisha, and she asked if we could talk somewhere private. I took her to the back office. She sat down and said, "I think I used to be you. Before you." My stomach dropped. Trisha had lived in Fort Worth 6 years ago. She met Marcus through a dating app. He told her he was an investment consultant for elite clients. Promised her he'd help grow her savings. She let him manage her accounts. He drained everything and disappeared. She never pressed charges because she was ashamed, and back then, she didn't think anyone would believe her. When she saw his face on the local news for skipping his court hearing, she knew it was him. She brought everything. Emails, screenshots, old checks, even a fake contract Marcus gave her for a joint real estate venture. She said she just wanted to help. Said she'd testify if it would make him pay. That made 4 women now. Me, Sierra, Trisha, and 2 others the PI had contacted. Each with nearly the same story. I gave all this to my attorney. He brought it to the district attorney's office. They agreed to open a criminal conspiracy case. It was officially bigger than just me now. 2 weeks later, Marcus was caught. He was in a small rental house outside Amarillo, living under a fake name, Brian Meadows. He was arrested without incident. In his possession they found $62,000 in cash, 3 burner phones, 2 IDs with fake names, a flash drive full of financial spreadsheets labeled with women's names, Including mine, that flash drive was the nail in the coffin. But here's where it took another turn. On that drive was a folder labeled failsafes. Inside were voice recordings.
Dozens of them.
Marcus had secretly recorded conversations, some with me, some with Sierra, and a few with women I didn't even recognize. He bragged in one audio file about how easy it is to get rich off women who think love means paperwork. He called marriage the most efficient scam ever invented. I listened to those recordings in my lawyer's office. I felt like I was watching a horror movie starring a man I used to kiss goodnight. But the worst part? He had recordings of my dad. Conversations from the few times Marcus and my father had talked on speakerphone before he passed. He'd clipped them and edited them, trying to build a fake narrative that my dad wanted Marcus to take control of the inheritance. He was preparing lies in case he ever got caught. It made me sick. The DA added charges: wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to defraud, and financial abuse of a vulnerable adult, based on what he did to my dad near the end. Sierra joined the case. So did Trisha. So did the other two women. Together, we weren't just victims anymore. We were witnesses in a federal investigation. Marcus's court date was pushed again to allow the government to build its case. He was denied bail. His assets were frozen. And that's when another twist hit me. My accountant called and said there was a flagged transaction request from a firm in Miami. Someone had tried to transfer a trust my father had set up for me, one I hadn't even touched yet. Guess who authorized it?
Sierra.
Even after she promised to help, she was still playing both sides. Turns out, she only cooperated with us to buy time, so she and Marcus could try to move more money before the system caught up. I don't know who betrayed me worse. Marcus, who planned this for years, or Sierra, who cried in my inbox and called herself a victim. I told my lawyer I wanted her added to the lawsuit. I wanted every dime tracked, every lie exposed. And I wasn't stopping until they were both ruined. The final hearing took place almost a year after Marcus was arrested. By then, everything had changed. I'd lost weight, gained gray hairs I hadn't noticed before. My business was doing well, but I felt different. I wasn't the same woman who used to second-guess herself in the mirror, wondering if she was being too emotional about her husband's behavior. That woman was gone. This one was tired, but sharp. Cold where she used to be warm. Ready to finish what Marcus started and make sure it ended on my terms. The courtroom, final hearing day. Marcus was brought in wearing shackles. Not dramatic ones like in movies, but still, ankles chained, wrists cuffed. He looked thinner.
Pale.
His hair had started to grow out again. The fake bleach job was long gone. His expensive suits replaced by a beige jumpsuit. He still tried to hold eye contact. Still tried that smug, calm face. I didn't flinch. The courtroom was packed. Reporters. The other women. Sierra, sitting stiff in the back, alone. Her lawyer had dropped her when he found out she tried to move money during the investigation. She'd been charged, too, aiding and abetting fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction. She didn't look smug anymore. She looked like a trapped animal. The judge began reading the charges.
Wire fraud.
Identity theft. Marriage fraud.
Forgery.
Interstate conspiracy to defraud. And, for me, the most personal one. Financial elder abuse against my late father. Each count came with its own weight. Each one felt like a stone dropped in a quiet room. Then came the part that mattered most to me: restitution. The judge had reviewed every transfer, every offshore account, every hidden stash. With the help of the forensic accountant I hired and the federal team, we tracked over $2.3 million that Marcus had either stolen or attempted to move. He thought he was clever. He thought by creating shell companies, fake charities, and burner accounts, the money would be untouchable. He was wrong. The court ordered the full seizure of all recovered funds. His properties, including the secret apartment in Waco, a cabin in Arkansas, and even a storage unit in Kansas, were all liquidated. I got my money back. But that wasn't a revenge. Not yet. The judge sentenced Marcus to 27 years in federal prison with no chance of parole until 85% was served. No country club prison. No minimum security. He was headed to a medium-high facility in Arizona, over 800 miles away from any of his stepping stones.
He didn't speak.
Not a word. Just sat there as his life fell apart in front of everyone. But I wasn't done. I asked to read a victim statement. Here's what I said, word for word, because I prepared it like it was the last chapter of my life with him. You looked me in the face and called me a stepping stone. You lied to me, used my father's death, and tried to erase every ounce of love I gave you. But stones don't break. They grind you down. And now I get to watch you disappear. 1 year at a time. You used to smile at me like you were the smartest man in the room. You're not. You're just a number in a system now. And when you get out, you'll be forgotten. And that's the justice you earned. Then I sat down and didn't look at him again. As for Sierra, she cried during her own hearing. Claimed she was manipulated. The judge wasn't swayed. She got 7 years with possibility of parole after 3. She tried to apologize to me through a letter. I didn't read it. I gave it to my lawyer and told him to burn it. I used some of the recovered funds to start a legal foundation. Small at first, just a few staff members. We help women and some men who've been conned, financially abused, or manipulated by romantic partners, especially those who feel ashamed or embarrassed to ask for help. We named it the Stepping Stone Fund. Poetic, maybe, but honest. And yes, I went to therapy. I had to face something I didn't expect. That part of me saw what Marcus was even early on and stayed anyway. I didn't ruin my life, but I ignored red flags. That's on me. I've learned.
I don't date now.
I focus on my business, my healing, my future. Last month I got a letter. Not from Marcus. From the prison counselor assigned to his unit. It said Marcus had been jumped inside. Something about money he owed the wrong person. He lost 2 teeth. Broke his jaw. They had to wire it shut. He can't smirk anymore. That felt like the real ending. Not the prison time. Not the restitution. The silence. For once, Marcus had nothing to say. And that's how I knew my revenge was complete.